Okay, everyone. So my presentation is on Srinivasa Ramanujan. He was a very popular mathematician, and we'll get started quick into his biography. So he was a mathematician, like I said already, and he was an autodidactic, which kind of means that he taught himself. He didn't have a lot of training in mathematics, and he learned a lot on his own. He was born in India, and he lived from the years of 1887 to 1920 and ended up dying at the age of 32. He ended up attending school in Cambridge, which I will be talking about a little bit later. So he moved from India to England. He was married at the age of 22. He was set up with an arranged marriage by someone who was actually 10 years old at the time, but that was actually very common in India. He first saw his first form of formal math at the age of 10 at secondary school, and he died from a parasitic liver infection, which at that time many doctors couldn't really see what was wrong because we didn't have the necessary equipment. So he went from doctor to doctor, and no one could figure out what was wrong. And eventually that ended up leading to his death in 1920. So the areas of math that he covered, um, these four were kind of just the main ones. He focused on mathematical analysis, number theory, infinite series, and continued fractions. So, like I said, he eventually came to Cambridge to get his math up and running because he wasn't getting a lot done and a lot published in India. So in 1913, he wrote a letter to G.H. Hardy, who was a professor at Cambridge. Um, and what happened with this was the letter had some formulas that were recognizable, and he was just kind of reproving things that already had been stated in the world of mathematics. And there were some others that were hard to believe. He had some work that there were no proofs behind it. He was just making theorems and assumptions with no proof really to back any of that up. So that ended up being a big issue. But these two things were things that actually G.H. Hardy found quite amazing. And so he wrote back to Ramanujan and asked for some proofs and some extra work in order to see actually where he was coming from at the time. While he was at Cambridge, he eventually got there on a scholarship through G.H. Hardy. He came up with his own formula for pi. As you can see, it's listed on my screen right now. Um, and although this may seem a little bit confusing to you, it's actually very precise. And one term from this formula of infinite numbers actually round could bring pi up to 6 decimal places, which at that time was a huge contribution. And although there's not a lot of evidence to how he ended up getting these numbers are actually very accurate with pi. And at the time where there were no computers or calculators or anything, he was doing this all by hand. The fact that one term in this series can get you to 6 decimal places out in pi is very impressive. And as long as you go through and you would continue through your infinite set of numbers, you would end up getting the exact approximation for pi. Some other contributions that he made that I just thought I'd want to touch on a little bit um, was that he provided new light for game theory. Uh, this is kind of helped people. Some of the stuff that he did ended up creating some new light and some new ways for people in game theory to make some new progress on their work. Um, he created his own theorems uh, that no one had before, and he also provided identities through linking coefficients and gave an identity for a hyperbolic secant. Something just kind of more modern that I talked about is his work became more popular, like I said, with game theory. In the 1970s, there was a time where game theory wasn't really the most important thing, and it kind of got pushed to the side for other algebraic things. But once the 1970s came around, game theory became much more popular, and his work resurfaced and ended up helping a lot of people who were working with game theory at the time. Um, Actually, just kind of something a little fun is in Mathematica and Wolfram, in their language, he actually has some special functions that he made up by himself, that are now named after him. I listed the four on the slides, as you can see. Um, but he had his own little functions that are now actually used in computer programming with mathematics today. So that's pretty cool. And just to kind of tie off at the end, I just thought I'd give you a little fun fact that in India, December 22nd is Mathematics Day. And this is in honor of Ramanujan because it is his birthday. So India has recognized him, and he has been recognized in the math world and has made a great difference to a lot of different things in mathematics and made some great strides uh, for mathematics and was excelling at the time and was an absolute genius.